Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with another emergency card kit. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time, but we leave the sentiment off. That way, when an occasion arises, we can choose the card that best fits the recipient and the sentiment that best fits the occasion. To help you with this, I release at least 2 free printables a month, full of sentiments and a card sketch showing you where to put the sentiments. This month, definitely, there are kits on the first and third Friday. That's every month, first and third Friday, but there's also a bonus kit coming out tomorrow. On April 6th, I have a complete kit full of sentiments and some fun new things, so please be sure to join me. Let's take a look at the kit. We are tackling 2 themes in this kit, and so like with the Easter, St. Patrick's Day one, I have divided them separately in case that helps with your filing. For page 1, we are covering Mother's Day sentiments. To the woman who has been like a mother to me, I love you. And I will probably give that to my mom. Happy Mother's Day to an amazing woman. Best bonus mom. I'm so lucky. Kick-ass mom. Momming is freaking hard. Congrats on surviving so far. Probably going to my sister. World's best grandma. And then down here we have world's best Nana. Once a year, I'll admit I'm turning into you. Mom, you were right about everything. And then for the most part, we've just repeated those down at the bottom and I've swapped out Nana. We'll cover a few other options on the rectangular sentiments, but you can get the circle sentiments with the circles on page 1 and then without them on page 2. That circle is ever so slightly larger than 1 3/4 of an inch. So this is the same size sentiments, but you can use a different size circle or a different shape altogether. I've been doing a lot of that lately. Then we have our rectangular sentiments, and I have also included World's Best Mima and World's Best Mom. Other than that, we have all the same sentiments and then they repeat as well. For our strip sentiments, we have the same fonts and things will repeat again. I've included Grandma, Nana, Mom, and Mima on this one as well. So we have sort of this cute, quirky font, a nice bubble font, a scripty font, and then just a classic serif font. Then we have our new baby sentiments, and a huge thank you to all of you who left comments with sentiments or who emailed me sentiments. That really helped out a lot in this one. If you have ideas for future kits, please leave those in the comments below. On my radar is a Father's Day kit because Father's Day is coming up in the US, and then masculine cards. I might combine those into the same kit. And then a kit for nerdy gamer sentiments, which isn't necessarily masculine, but overlaps a little bit. And a kit for anniversary and wedding. So if you have any ideas on sentiments or puns or requests for things, I always love hearing from you guys. You have really, really great ideas. But let's take a look at the baby sentiments. Congrats on your very own crying machine. Whoa, you made a tiny human. Have you ever seen a watermelon fit through a donut hole? You're about to. The adventure begins. Tiny hands, tiny feet, big love. Awesome people make awesome babies. Welcome, little one. Hello, sweet baby. And then those repeat down here at the bottom. Again, you can get it with and without the circle. And then we have our rectangular sentiments. I've just repeated a couple of them. The adventure begins, I think, is really universal and can be used for more than just baby sentiments. So that one got doubled up. And then the hello, sweet baby is on here an extra time as well. You can also get those in the same 4 strip sentiment fonts. I am wondering about this scripty font. Are people using this? Should we replace this? I haven't used it in quite a while at this point, which to me is always a time to question them. So if you have scripty fonts that you love, or if you have ideas and requests for other fonts, or if you're just like, hey, Sarah, I really do use that. Don't get rid of that. Please put it in the comments below. And then we have our card sketch. If you like the idea of emergency cards, or you just like free printable sentiments and card sketches, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified every time there's a new free printable kit. And then we have our card sketch. I am super excited about this one. It's great as a flat card, but then next week I'll have another video, a stepped up video, where we do something super fun with this sketch. So we're gonna start by assembling some of our mats and layers. For this light gray rectangle, there are 3 of them, and they are 2 3/4 by 1 3/4. And then I have some pattern paper I'm gonna put on top that is 2.5 by 1.5. 2.5 by 1.5 is the same size as the mat that I use when I'm using one of our rectangular sentiments. So you'll see on the sketch for the first time, I have noted where I would put the rectangular sentiment. Normally it's just kind of wherever it fits depending on how I decorated the card. But I specifically designed this to have a great place for it. Once those are assembled, I can move on to this background. This piece right here is my background. It's 2 3/4 by 5.5. And I'm gonna glue that on there, but these strips are gonna cover up most of it, if I'm honest. So if you didn't wanna use an entire piece of colored cardstock for this, I have a trick for you. So I'm gonna add this with some wet glue. And then when I go to add these, I'm gonna do one at the top and one at the bottom first, and then I know exactly where that middle is. If you don't want to use this entire piece of cardstock, you can just use a marker on your card base to fill in those little stripes, or you could use tiny strips of cardstock. This just seemed a little easier to me. Once I've added those with my wet glue, I'm actually going to move to these measurements right here. There is a pink rectangle that's 1.5 by 5.5, and I've cut that out of that same dark teal cardstock, and then a lighter rectangle on top of it that's 1 1/4 by 5.5. All of my pattern paper is centered on the rectangles, and then I'm just using wet glue when I add them to my card base because it gives me enough room to sort of wiggle things. I'm going to make sure that it's butted all the way up against the fold at the top, or if it was side folding the fold over here, I would have started with this strip because I have a little bit showing. I'm just going to take that to my trimmer and cut that off. Once I have the base of my card completed with all my mats and layers, then I'm going to move on to this circle, which is really for me where the focus of the card is. So it's a purple circle that is 3 inches, and I did mine out of some pattern paper that has some clouds on it. And then there's an optional matte layer that is 3 1/4. So I cut both to kind of show you what that looks like, but you wouldn't need to, right? For a lot of us, this is maybe where we're putting our sentiment. You might stamp it on there if you're not going to use an emergency sentiment, right? Whatever kind of card you need will work just fine. Then this is going to go kind of towards the top, but more to the left than the right. For this card, I'm going to use a strip sentiment, and we're making a baby card. And I tell you what, I don't have much in the way of baby stamps and dies. I have a couple little laundry pieces that I have from Trinity stamps. I'll link them below. They're super cute, but the size is a little small. Like, look how cute they are, but they're tiny. And so I was playing around and it just didn't look right. So instead, I'm going to use a duck, but I think any critter would work here, right? Check your stash. You could do a stamped image. You could do a die cut image. I like this duck because I'm going to have him like sitting or swimming on top of our sentiment. So this guy is from Duck with Umbrella. It's an older Spellbinders set. But even though it's been out for a while, it's still available pretty much everywhere. Better than that, this will probably go on super sale when we hit the warehouse sale for Spellbinders. It's coming up in the next month or two, probably the next month. And I will have a video out within the first 24 to 36 hours of that sale. So keep an eye out for that. I just love this guy. I have a video from when I first really started my YouTube channel sharing these two cards. This guy kind of like swims or swings around on this circle card. This one has this spinning element. It's not a tutorial card. I'm really just sharing the cards I made, but I do step up the duck. I've done some different things with the beak and the eye than just using it the way that it was designed, and I do share how to do that. So I'll link that video below and at the end of this video if you're interested. For my sentiment, I'm going to use one of these sort of quirky little fonts here. So when I cut this apart, I am going to cut right down the middle. So the tick marks are visible on either side. That will help me cut things out with my trimmer later, but I'm actually going to use a die set this time. So this is the sentiment strips from Pretty Pink Posh, and it's got 3 different sizes where you can layer things up using the scallop or the stitched rectangle or both. And I just have the strip die for that medium size. And I'm going to kind of move this around and see which one fits in this size. So I could do tiny hands, tiny feet, big love. Awesome people make awesome babies is a little too big. If I wanted one of the little ones, there is a smaller size. So like those would fit beautifully in this one. But I think I want, whoa, you made a tiny human. So I'm just going to line that up as best I can. And then I will add tape on either side once I get it straight. And then I will run that through my die cutting machine. Sometimes when I run it through with this die, I get a lot of sort of texture, like an indentation from the die. And so I flip it over and I just run my bone folder over the back of it, and that helps. Or you can take the whole thing and just run it through your die cut machine without any dies, and that will flatten it out. If you don't have this die set, that's fine. Most of the time, I don't use the dies in these early videos. You can just cut it out using the tick marks, and then you can mount that on a 3/8 inch strip of cardstock just to give you another layer behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and glue together these 2 layering pieces with some wet glue. I have added some foam tape behind my strip because I think it will help with the placement of our duck. I'm putting some wet glue on there to help me get the placement just right. I want to make sure that it's straight. And then I'll use wet glue for my duck. You can see what I kind of did here. That's his foot. That's the foot of the duck that I used to create like the bottom of the beak. Anyway, the video I've linked will kind of show you how to do that. Then I love to use removable adhesive for my sentiments. So if I change my mind, I can. And this is super simple with this die set because I know I can cut an exact size for this mat of colored cardstock. And that will finish up card number 1. Isn't he cute? For card number 2, we're going to switch things up a little bit because you don't want to watch me do the exact same thing all over again. So I am starting by adding an A2 panel of cardstock. This happens to be some like shimmery dark gray cardstock. It's been in my stash for a long time. Then these 4 pieces, right, the top pieces, I've cut exactly the same. There's nothing different there. But I wanted more of this background paper to show. So when I went to cut these other pieces, instead of cutting at 1.5 by 5.5, I cut it 1 3/8 by 5 3/8. So I'm going to get just a teeny tiny border all the way around. For these smaller rectangles, instead of 2 1/4 by 1 1/4, I went 1/8 of an inch smaller than that. So I have 2 5/8 by 1 5/8. Okay, and if you don't like 1/8 of inches, that's fine. Just follow the sketch and it'll look like the first card. But I love the sort of effect that you get and that background peeking through. I just think that that's really beautiful. Instead of using pattern paper, I have embossed my pieces using the Efflorescent Flora embossing folder from Spellbinders. This is one of my all-time favorites. I just think that this is really, really beautiful, and you get this gorgeous deep emboss. So I'm going to try to get my placement right before I start gluing things down. I want them all to have the same margin between them, and then I'll use my wet glue so I have some wiggle room as I'm placing things. For the top and bottom pieces, I'm trying to line them up with the same margin I've created with this long strip. And so I'm going to do those first, and then I'll center the last one. Instead of using a circle here, I'm going to use a different shape. You've seen me use these before. They're the Essential Floral Reflection dies. I just think they're super elegant, and we're making a Mother's Day card, right? So I thought, let's make it fancy. So I cut one that's a little bit bigger, and it's going to go kind of here, and then the next size smaller. Okay, there are smaller ones and bigger ones in the set. And then I wanted it to pop a little bit more. So for this smaller one, I cut a second one, and then I cut it in half. This reminds me of when I used to go to Stampin' Up! Parties, and they didn't have like nesting punches for some of our favorite shapes. And so we would cut them in half, and then you can just layer it towards the top and the bottom to create that shadow effect. So I added a bunch of my favorite foam dots that have this easy peel tab, so I can pop this up on our card. And then I'm going to glue this whole thing down. I love that this shape creates a beautiful space for a circle. This one's not quite 2 inches, but you could use 2 inches. It'll fit. This is 1 7/8. I chose this size because it matches the margin I have on the rest of the card. For my sentiment, I think I'm going to grab this Happy Mother's Day to an amazing woman. To get to that, I'm just going to cut down the middle. And then I'm going to grab my 1 3/4 inch punch, and I just wiggle it until I can't see the circle anymore and I know that it's centered. Then I'll use my removable adhesive to add that to my card. I've got that teeny tiny margin. And it is completely finished. And that is card number 2. All right, my friends, that finishes our 2 cards for today. I would love to know which of these cards is your favorite. If you have ideas for other themes or sentiments, please put those in the comments below. Coming up, I will be releasing kits for masculine cards, Father's Day, nerdy gamer cards, wedding and anniversary. So if you have requests for particular sentiments or puns, I want to know about them. Just stick them in the comments. You guys do such a great job, and I always appreciate it. If you are interested in this huge kit with 2 themes, a card sketch, and measurements, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. And when you click that subscribe button, if you ring the bell, you will be notified every time there's a new free printable. These come out on the 1st and 3rd Friday of the month. On the other Fridays, I typically have a stepped up version of that kit and card sketch that includes some kind of fun fold. But I've also been releasing surprise kits, and you don't want to miss them. You guys, there's a kit coming out tomorrow because I've lost my mind. Back-to-back kits. I know. So please come back and join me. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.